thistle, yeah. So notice that kind of spider vein white, on the leaf there.
Zebra.
And I noticed the thorns right away.
Yeah, so notice the thorns too. Yeah, that's a good thing to notice, absolutely. So the part that we normally use traditionally of this, although arguably you could probably use other parts, but the part that's most potent in this is the seed, the milk thistle seed. Okay. And so this is one of those where this is a restorative, nutritive herb that there's really, I don't know of any contraindications in it. Maybe somebody does, but I've never had any problem with it ever.
Fabulous.
It is a liver protectant, what we call hepatoprotectant, which is a fancy word for a liver protectant. Protects a lot of the liver cells and what we call the liver parenchyma, the liver cells, the Kupffer cells that do, when I mentioned how, if you take something that goes into the portal vein and ends up in the liver, well, what happens is that portal vein comes in the liver, and we've got all these cells, these macrophages, these kind of what we call phagocytes, or phago meaning to eat, that digest and eat and destroy things that aren't supposed to be there, help metabolize things that are supposed to be there. You think of all the things the liver does. It's incredible, right? It adjusts and maintains our blood sugar level. It keeps our toxins from getting through our body. It's the first thing, so if you have somebody who's a chronic alcoholic, or so, the reason that they end up with cirrhosis of the liver is because the liver has to metabolize and deal with all that alcohol, that poison. It's poison, that has to deal with on a daily basis, and over time it forms scars, which is, what we call cirrhosis. So there's all of that going on. It also is part of the gallbladder, hangs down off of that, and the liver health relates directly to the gallbladder, and the gallbladder helps us digest our proteins and our fats. So here we go back into that dynamic circle, right? So if we've got really crappy food that we're eating, or toxins, or whatever it might be, and we ingest them, and they end up in our portal vein, and they end up in our liver gets all clogged up and says, this is too much, I can't deal with it, and so it gets backed up, and we can actually get what's called portal vein hypertension, which means that we actually have backed up, and you can actually feel it with people who are really ill, really dysfunctional and dysbiotic in their digestive system and their liver tract. And so we can see that. So if that happens, then what happens there? Well, everything else gets backed up. The gall doesn't get produced like it needs to, which means now our body isn't digesting stuff the right way because there's not enough bile down there to digest our proteins and fats. So we get to spiral, the just cascading spiral of exacerbation upon exacerbation along that dynamic pathway, between the liver, our digestive system, the bloodstream, the portal vein, back in the liver, and so forth, right? So milk thistle is a really good, gentle, restorative way to help get our liver back on track in a number of ways. And it does this two ways. One is it's a hepatoprotective, an amazing hepatoprotective. In fact, it got its fame back in Middle Europe because they used it when they ate like death amanita, like really poisonous mushrooms. They give milk thistle, and 2 hours later, a person's like, hey, what's up? Let's go eat some more mushrooms, right? It's like, it helps. I mean, mushroom poisoning is where it really got famous. So modern, quote unquote, science has discovered this, and discovered it's Silabus marianum is the name of it's the scientific name, the botanical name of the plant, and you'll find that many times the constituents that are really potent and powerful are named after the genus. So Silabus, Silybus, I think, Silabus, right? And silabin is considered the constituent, and you can find that being extracted. People will sell silabin as a hepatoprotectant. Again, back to my point about ascorbic acid versus bioflavonoids, you're going to get generally speaking, you're going to get much better performance out of any plant if you take the whole part of the plant rather than just, that one little tiny constituent, right? Your body doesn't know what to do with it. It's like it's an overdose of something it's not used to. We don't take food that way. It doesn't know. So you take the whole seed. Well, it does that. So it does it in that way. It boosts. It helps protective. It's a hepatoprotective. In other words, it helps those Kupffer cells, supports them, helps them do their job better. Actually helps the creation of them, the actual cytogenesis of Kupffer cells. But it's also a gently warming, what we would call energetically a gently warming herb, and a gently warming diuretic. And so it actually stimulates the liver to work a little bit more. It stimulates better blood circulation. It's actually a little bit of a cardio stimulant. It actually will raise blood pressure slightly. But go back to that amphotericity, the thing I said, amphoteric. A lot of times you find herbs like this, especially one as gentle as this, if your blood pressure is already high, you might not find it going up at all, or just very, very slight. But it will raise if you're hypotensive. It's been shown in case studies to actually raise blood pressure very slightly. So better circulation, possibly even better heart contractility, but however it does its effect, it ends up with you decongesting the liver, that congested liver, and you end up, as a gentle diuretic, of course, back it gets broken down, those things get broken down into the lymph or the bloodstream, and you pee them out, you eliminate them out of your body. So that's a lot to say about it, but one thing that I'll tell you too is that there's a downside to that, is that it will also sometimes keep you from being able to metabolize things you want to metabolize. So if you take it in a formula, in other words, a lot of other herbs that you think are going to get, they might not make it where they need to go if you're taking it with this or you're taking this first, because you might actually be filtering more of them out sometimes. One big place here where we find this problem is actually another issue, but when we talk about poisoning, and that is charcoal. We use activated charcoal for poisoning, right? It's very, very effective for that. But a lot of people will think, well, I'll have activated charcoal in my first aid kit, my herbal first aid kit, and I'll have a bunch of milk thistle in there too, so I can give so number one, the charcoal adsorbs all those toxins as it goes through your gut, so we're making less toxin, or keeping less toxins in our gut. Number two, anything that makes it all the way out to the liver, we're going to support that. So the problem there is the charcoal, if you take them at the same time, the charcoal absorbs the milk thistle, so you don't get the milk thistle to the liver. So you just have to be careful when you're taking them for something that this is commonly taken for, that you're doing it correctly is all.
What part of the milk thistle?
The seed.
The seed.
I read where somebody was combining black pepper
Yes.
and milk thistle, and is that bad or good or?
No, so piperine is what's in black pepper, and what people take now, it's kind of become popular to be able to take black pepper, or piperine niger, or even just the piperine, the actual constituent in there. Not as recommended. And what that does is that opens up permeability of the gut so that you get more of it into your blood. So it's sort of like a little bit of a potentiator, an activator of herbs. You could think of it that way.
They were putting out a pepper grinder.
Yeah, just grinding it up.
So the raw seed is okay.
That sounds good.
You could certainly do that. Yep.
If you were to take one or the other first, which would be better, the charcoal or the milk?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a really good question. And I would just say, if you could offset it by enough time to digest it. If you got there right on the bat, so let's say you saw somebody get poisoned, immediately I would take the charcoal. Just get the charcoal in there. And then follow it up maybe an hour later with the milk thistle. So the charcoal's had time to absorb everything. On the other hand, if it happened a while ago and maybe it's already in the gut and some bloodstream, then maybe the milk thistle would be more indicated at that point. Yes?
In Western herbalism, are there certain herbs that you use as guiding herbs in your formulas to target certain organs?
Sure. So there's a lot of different ways to create formulas, and absolutely they're what I call carrier herbs. In other words, they a lot of times will help vasodilation. They'll help stimulate peripheral blood vessels so that you're getting more circulation. There's so many ways to look at how to make formulas, and Thomas may even talk about this. A lot of different herbalists have different ways of doing that. I'm sure Ellen's got her own methods, Thomas got his methods. I tend to be pretty scientific about it. I just go across the columns and make a table and say, here's the systems I want to affect, and here are the herbs that I can do that with, and now let me figure out which ones match up best. There's a few things you look out for that probably outside the scope of this walk, but you can do it that way, or you can say like what you just kind of suggested there. I've got a central herb that's kind of my active herb, and now I've got something that's going to help potentiate that, and here's something that's going to actually help carry it, So you can do it that way too. Sure.